Hi, so I've had a lot of people ask me how I did my Caliborn makeup and prosthetic, and since I have a photo shoot tonight, I figured I might as well do a tutorial now, since usually I'm not having time to do it or haven't cosplayed in a while. So, I'm going to go through the basic steps of how I do the makeup. My prosthetic's already made, but when we get to that point, I'll kind of explain for everyone finally kind of how I did it, so yeah. And pretty much for this, I have to get into all my clothes first because I paint the green around myself because even though I've never had trouble with things coming off on my clothes, I'm really paranoid about that and I like to be all dressed first. So that's why I'm all dressed. Also, if you do this sort of thing, have your contacts in first because you do not want to be doing all this fucking nasty makeup and then poking at your eyeball. So, get all that shit done out of the way first. Anyway, first of all, what I use Ben Nye primarily, and I use their Magic Cake Aqua Paint. Now, a lot of people I know are all iffy about Ben Nye, and they're like, oh, snazaroo, blah, 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 but I've used those things, I've hung out with people who use those things, they're shit. For me, this stuff is the best makeup I have ever used for trolls, sprites, and cherubs. It is only activated by water, so once this shit is on your skin, it mattes, it does not get shiny. I have never had issues with it sweating off except for like sometimes like in the palm of my hands, but even then, if you put it on enough and evenly, I've never had too much of an issue with it. But I mean, again, it stays on great. The color is pretty easy to get even once you get the hang of it a bit, but it's definitely better than a lot of the stuff I've seen, and like I said, it does not get shiny, which is what I'm very worried about because I have oily skin, never had a problem with that. So that's primarily what I use. For his eyes, though, I do use cream-based makeup just because I haven't been able to ever had time to get the same sort of aqua paint stuff in black yet, but since I only have to use this in a very small area, it does the job. This is what I used on the prosthetic part, is, again, Ben Nye. It is their Magic Color airbrushable liquid paint. It again, is what I use on the mask and my bald cap since it was liquid, and the mask part I use is foam and latex for the bald cap. That stays on there just fine and doesn't flake off or like smear like I was worried about the oil doing. So that's just why I have that, and I use that for touch-ups like around places where I have to add liquid latex and stuff. So that's the reason I have that. And of course, also the most important thing, spirit gum. So what I start off by doing is I actually do the part that goes under my prosthetic first, so that way I'm not trying to fill in around the edges of it and looking weird. I just feel like 8 million times I've done this cosplay. I just found that's the easiest way to do. So basically you just take your sponge. I use pretty basic makeup sponges, and I just fill in the areas around both my eyes. So it's pretty basic. I go up probably a little higher than I need to, but again, I don't like having a possible angle, you know, if I'm having a photo from an angle or anything like that, the eye holes of my mask are pretty wide, so I like to make sure everything's completely covered, you know. So anyway, go ahead and do that. Alright, so once the black is done, of course you want to seal things, especially since this is oil-based. Now what I do is I kind of seal this part first. Really, I don't do too much sealing with the rest of my makeup, gonna be honest with you, because like I said, my skin sucks that shit in pretty well, but always do seal, just in case. I do. You don't want to be one of those homestucks at cons who doesn't seal your shit. So, do that. I have used the Ben Nye Neutral set. I've used their spray before. It's like a minty smelling spray. It works pretty well, but I'm always worried about it actually covering enough since it's spray and you can't really tell. So I just use this powder stuff since it's pretty straightforward. What I do is put a little bit in my hand. I take the sponge I used for the makeup, just so I'm not doing some other weird color. And I'll just go over everything. And it not only helps mattify it a little bit, but again, it helps it dry faster, helps it stay there. I'm always doing usually little touch-ups with other makeup over it once I'm done, but I don't always add extra sealant over that. It depends on how much I have to do. But As you can see, it's a little less shiny. Actually, you can't probably see that well because my webcam is shitty. But it does help make it a little less shiny, and even though this part's darker under my eyes, I like to make sure it does that anyway. So, after you're all prettied up with that, that's what I do. Grab the lovely aqua paint, which it comes in this giant cake form, and that's the other great thing about this stuff. This lasts forever. I have cosplayed Aridin since I was a sophomore in college, and one tin of this stuff lasted me up until the end of last year. Never had to buy a new one. And this has lasted me through almost 2 years of cosplaying Caliborn, and I still have over half of it left. So this stuff goes a long way, and this includes me covering all my ons and everything with it. So this stuff goes a long way, and it's not too expensive, which is another reason I like it. So anyway, what you gotta do, take your sponge, take this stuff, get it a little wet, don't get it too wet because then it gets really liquidy and weird. And you just swipe it across the palette. And then, of course, I got it too wet as soon as I say not to get it wet. Okay, got a nice green there. Now, I usually do just a base layer of everything, and then I have to go back and touch it up as I go to make sure it matches my prosthetic. So, and depending on the color you're going for and what kind of paint or color of paint you're using, it can vary. I mean, like when I did gray, I pretty much only needed one layer because I'm pale enough, and that was enough. And when I did like aerosol spray and other things that require me to do white, I sometimes need 2 layers just to even it all out. But with the green, I have to do quite a few since I really need it opaque to match up with everything. So it just varies. But again, once you get kind of a system of how to do it, it really layers really well, and it will look nice and flat. So I'm gonna get started on my face. I always do my face part first, and I go a little bit under my shirt line and up to here because that's about where my prosthetic ends. And I don't have to do my ears anymore since I got that covered. So I'll get that going. I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished most of the layers I will do on my face, and I did just a light starter shade on my arm just to have it done. It, like I said, it stays really well. Again, always seal though, just to be sure. Just, keep rubbing on clothes, other people's clothes. You never know, because makeup does work on everyone's skin a little differently, so you don't want to risk it. But like I said, this stuff sets really well, and I've never had any issues with it. Once, it's past the wet stage and getting on you, I've never had really any issues with it getting too much on things. So, like I said, still be careful, still seal, definitely, but this stuff from all the stuff I've tried has definitely worked the best. So, after I have this base layer on, done the base of my arms, so I get the fun part, aka the prosthetic. So, what I do first is get my hair wet and I slick it back since I have a bald cap for this now. I don't know exactly what people with longer hair than me do, to be honest. What I do is I wet it back and then I clip back the end parts back here. So I'll get that done. I'm going to get my prosthetic and get to the part that everyone always asks me about. Okay, got my hair back again. If you have longer hair, I would look up some tutorials on that because I've never really had hair longer than this since I've started cosplaying, so I really can't give any good tips on how to get your hair nicely under a bald cap and have it looking good. So I can only speak from my experience. But anyway, here's what I do. Got it back. Here is my pretty face. What I did was I bought a mask from a costume store online. It was originally a full skeletal face prosthetic, like jaw, blah blah blah. But for Caliborn, I felt it was more important to be able to show my mouth and use expressions, like at least at the bottom half of my face properly, because he smirks a lot, and I just felt that would look better than just trying to do it with the whole bottom side of the jaw. So I actually cut the whole bottom jaw off and the top part of the jaw that was under here, and I just made it so it just sits right to about here under my nose, still has the cheeks and everything, so I have that good definition and have the definition with the eye holes. And then what I did is I basically kind of spirit gum glued a bald cap onto the back once I had cut it to cover my ears. My original one didn't cover my ears. I realized that was stupid and redid it. So anyway, what I do, I also glued some pretty eyelashes on those because Caliborn has the best eyelashes of anyone in on stock. So I get the stuff open. Spirit gum, you gotta let it get a bit tacky before you actually start using it. But where I apply it is at major points of where I know I want to ensure that that mask will stick. So I primarily do it along my upper brow and then along my cheek areas. Now I do go back as I put it on and touch it more just because it's always a little hard to gauge. And I don't do it for the bald cap part yet because I never know quite where that's going to fall. I forget every time. Okay. And take this plate and get it off. It's been a while. Gotta tap a little bit to get it going. Oopsie, got a little bit of hair. And you got the main part on. Okay, then, like I said, what I do from here is work on touching up the edges of the bald cap and the mask so they sit as flat to my face as I can. It's a bit of a annoying process, but you gotta do it to get this shit on there right here now. Like I said, you gotta let the spirit gum also get a little tacky, and that's why I did the tapping part. It kind of helps it get to that point where you want it to be. And also, you will get your hair caught in spirit gum. It's unavoidable. It'll happen once or twice if you do this. No matter what you do. Never had a time where I didn't get tacky. Or didn't get spirit gum in my hair. After 8 million times of doing Caliborn. All the time. So, don't freak out. Let it happen. Obviously, you don't want to get a huge chunk in there, because trust me, it's not fun. But it'll happen, so let it go. And main skull part's on. We're all good. I do need to touch it under my nose area and make it sit a little nicer. And I did leave it so I can breathe out of here, because this thing does get kind of hot if you're in a summer con. Although it is, at least the one I bought is foam, so it's pretty light, and it did already come with these little vents under the nose, so it wasn't actually too bad to adjust to. But there are a lot of various skull prosthetics out there, so depending on the one you would choose or alter, or I mean I've even seen some amazing cosplayers who have made their own, that could vary on what you can do as far as, like, you know, comfortability and everything. A piece of my liquid latex just fell off the edge there. I'll get to the liquid latex part in a sec, but that's basically what I use to help kind of fix up the edges of this. Okay, I want to make sure it's tight, but you also want to make sure you can move a little bit as you're doing the spirit gun edges, because if you make it too tight, once you try to go to move, it's going to start to peel away because it's going to be pulled too tight and you're not going to have any flexibility. I have also learned that the hard way and actually had a bald cap split on me mid-panel, so that was fun. So yeah, don't do that. Tip from the veteran on this shit. I'm not going to have to touch more as I go along in this tutorial, but you get to watch me do this. I know it's exciting. Luckily, I still have a while to my shoot, so... By the way, my shoot is with CT Graphy. She is a great photographer. She's done all of my Caliborn shoots but one, and she makes me look a hell of a lot cooler than I am. So if you're ever at any cons in the Midwest where she is, I would highly suggest hitting her up because she's great. She's unfortunate to have had to deal with me for a lot of things, and she deserves more than my sorry ass. But anyway, I have to do the back of this, so I'm gonna need a mirror. I'll be back as soon as this is done. Okay, pretty much all secured bald cap wise. So what we do now is touching up the edges of things with some liquid latex as well as to help it stick a little better. I just used a generic brand. I bought it from the place I bought my troll ears like years ago, so I'll be honest, I don't remember the URL, but if I'm able to find again, I'll like put it in the comments or something. But yeah, I mean, any liquid latex will do. I just use the basic flesh colored since I'm going to be painting over it anyway. So I just use also a normal paintbrush for this, nothing fancy. And I just go in kind of stippled dabs. Along all the edges. I have to wait for it to dry too. Now, how long it takes will vary based on how long, or well, not how long, sorry, how thick you put it on. So you don't want to do it too thick, but mostly just to make sure it looks good and blends nicely. I'm also no professional at this, so I might not be the best person to learn liquid latex techniques from. I've never done them in a large scale like some people have as far as like, you know, effects and all that sort of thing makeup, but I just know what I've messed around with, you know. So basically you do that all the way around, let it dry, and then what you do is just paint over it, touch it up. So I'll get back to that. Okay, so liquid latex is pretty much all dry, and then, like I said, what you then do is reapply some makeup over it to help blend it in. Sorry my webcam is so bad and you can't really see the colors of anything properly, but I swear this is blending it in better than it looks. And it looks like it's super badly edged and everything, but I promise you that it's not. I also put a couple other layers on my arms while I was waiting for the liquid latex to dry. When you do something this relatively long of a process, you kind of gotta learn to multitask with things. And this is usually the time where I take the time to do other touch-ups with the makeup as well. Sometimes my mask, needs other random touch-ups just to make the makeup look even. Keep things looking solid. But and like I said, I added a couple other layers to the arms. I never completely do them till the very end, just because they don't take very long to do overall, so I kind of like to put that off. Because while they don't take as long to do normally, it is a bit harder, at least for me, to get the skin on my arms even. I don't know why I have so much trouble with that, but I do know what cosplay I'm doing, so. I also don't like to do the makeup on my hands because I know while I'm doing this sort of thing, it's going to come off anyway, to some extent, so I just don't waste the time. But, oh, here's a talk about my lovely eyelashes. Yeah, I bought falsies and glued them on here. Does the job though. Might look silly, but hey, don't bash the awesome lashes. Okay. Like I said, doing the rest of the hands. At this stage, it's better to keep the sponge more dry than wet, because the last thing you want to do is have done all these layers of makeup and then have a super wet sponge and take it all off. And I mean, that goes for a lot of makeups I've used, like cream, this stuff, anything. You don't want to have too much moisture in the end because it's just more liable to take off all the hard layers you've wasted all your time doing, and then it's really fucking annoying. So, not a fun time. Don't do it. Keep it dry, but damp enough that you also don't scrape away layers and just hurt your skin, because that can happen too. It's a process you have to learn as you make mistakes, basically. So, at this stage, it's mostly touching up edges, making sure everything is covered by clothes, which is another important thing. You pretty much want to make sure that anything that could move out of the way while you're either doing photos, just move around at a con, anything like that is covered. Now, if you have something like me, I didn't really mess with the back of my neck too much because for this cosplay, since this is God tier, I have my cape that I'll be putting on at the end, so it really doesn't matter if the back of my neck is too completely done or not. And it's a nice way to cheat. I do that when I'm aired in an aerosol spray too. So that scarf, I don't do all the back of my neck because where my wig meet in there, I cheat a little bit. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of lazy. So, and plus, unless I'm at a con where I have other people with me, it's very difficult to get the back of your neck completely. I've gotten to a point where I can kind of feel it out for the most part, just from doing this 8 million times. But I just find it easier that unless I'm doing something where my neck will be completely in view and I really do need it covered, I just avoid it. So you don't have to do that. Some people will probably think that's extremely lazy and bad of me, but I really don't care. So, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to finish touching things up, and when I'm pretty much done touching things up, I'll be back for like the last 2 steps basically. Yeah. Alright, so I'm all touched up, hands are completely done now, arms, all that good stuff. Makeup's done, and I finally put on my cape, which like I said would be the last step. But last thing, really, after getting sealed of course, is for Caliborn to do fangs. For me, I use Scarecrow brand. I use their small fangs because I have very small teeth and a small jaw, so they're large ones, which I've tried. First of all, they don't even fit in my mouth, like I cannot close my mouth, and they also don't really fit around my teeth well, so I use these small ones, and they work really well. What you do is it comes with a little kit, and you actually custom fit them so they sit on your teeth right. There we go. And, I mean, you do bite yourself a bit when you first put them in, but you get used to them pretty fast. I've used these for all my troll cosplays. I use them for Caliborn, obviously. I mean, I've used them all the time, and they last a long time. I mean, I've only gone through 2 pairs, and the only reason I had to get a new pair is because I was dumb and lost one at a con. So, but I mean, once you do them and fit into your teeth, they last a long time. They're pretty comfortable as long as you, again, get a size that will fit your mouth, so be very careful about that. There are normal sized ones are pretty long, but again, I have a small jaw, so maybe that's just me, but like when I got them, I was like, holy shit, there was no way these are gonna fit. I sized them, yeah, didn't fit in my mouth. I was like, all the time. So again, I would suggest the small ones if you have a smaller jaw, or if you're just looking for something that's not quite as over the top as the large ones, and they're not as much of a speech impediment issue. So if you are worried about any of those sort of things, I would recommend the small ones. The large ones, they do have a couple more variations of, like, they have sets that come in like 2 pairs for either side. You can have like a short one that is slightly longer, and just like basic long ones, they have different variations. The short ones, they only have the short ones unless they've changed since I bought them. But for this, I really didn't feel like I needed anything else, so it does the job. But anyway, after this point, you are all set. Got the contacts in, which again you can't really see thanks to my lovely awful webcam, but I've got my Juju contacts in. and you're pretty much ready to go. So, hope you enjoyed this. I really don't know what else to do here, so go raise some hell.